Hello again, it's Brandon, and today we find out which of the 7 current cars in Assetto Corsa Competizione is the quickest at Monza. Yesterday I compared the 2018 Nissan GTR with the Ferrari 488, but I thought I may as well do the whole lot in one video, so here it is. I'll give my opinions and talk about the cars a bit while we watch the laps. Today you might actually learn that you don't need to come up with a fancy setup to go fast, because I'll only be using the aggressive setups without any changes. I also surprised myself a bit when I managed to go faster on the aggressive setup in some cars than I did on my own setup. This is mainly just because I drove really nice laps here, but the aggressive setup is often all you need to pull fast lap times. You should only need to slightly change the setup maybe to gain the last couple tenths out of your lap time, but it's mainly up to your driving to become quick. First of all and slowest of all is the 2015 Nissan GTR. Now I didn't think this car felt too bad, it feels quite similar to the 2018 GTR. But at the end of the video you'll notice that this car is quite a lot slower than the other car. Now this car doesn't feel too bad, it's actually quite nice to drive, it's not too hard, it handles bumps alright, some of them you got to be careful on. Its turn-in's pretty good, its rear end's pretty good when you put the throttle on, it doesn't kick out all the time. But it's just not that fast and it ends up being the slowest car around Monza. I'll let you watch some of the lap without me speaking. Now coming to the second Lesmo, I noticed this car was probably one of the best cars at handling this bump on the inside there. I did it right there and it came off alright, so that's one good thing about this car. It handles most of the bumps alright. Coming into Ascari, it doesn't quite like the inner curb just there, and on the exit it hates the bump on the left. As you can see, it just throws you right off the track. So you need to avoid that bump if you can. If you have to, make sure you don't hit it very hard. I just about get away with it right there. Don't go into the sand. Got away with it. And we head down to the last corner where it handles fairly well. You can put your foot down quite early. There we go, now it's just foot flat to the line. The car feels really nice to drive, but it's just not that quick. This car pulls a time of 1 minute 48.9, so it's an alright time, but it's not the fastest, as you're about to see. Second on this list, well 6th place overall, would be the Bentley. Now this car is harder to drive than the Nissan that we just looked at, but it's slightly faster. Now coming out of the corners is probably this car's weak point. The rear end likes to skate around a wee bit. It's braking, you can brake pretty late in this car. Coming into this first corner you can brake just about where you do with a Ferrari. It's a little tad understeery on the entrance of the corners, but if you slow it down enough you're alright. Just gotta if you can ease the throttle on very carefully, you should be alright with this car, but it's still pretty slow. The Bentley tends to be able to handle the bumps alright as well, and I haven't had many problems with this car spinning because of bumps. As you can see, I just hit one of the sausage curbs and it handled it just fine. Now coming down to Ascari, this car doesn't mind the bump on the left on the entrance of the corner. Coming to the exit, it handles the bump on the left or right as well. So it's not too bad over bumps, it's just coming out of corners. The rear likes to kick out a wee bit. as we come through the last corner. We're about to see what our lap time is. You can get on the throttle pretty early coming out of the last corner, surprisingly. And this performs a lap time of a 1 minute 48.7. So very slightly faster than the Nissan. These laps I performed here aren't perfect, but they're pretty decent laps. Now the car that sits in 5th place is the BMW. Now this surprised me because I thought the BMW would do a lot better than this, and it might just be because I didn't drive a very good lap. I'd at least expect it to be in front of the 2018 Nissan, but in this case not quite. The car feels amazing. This is usually my go-to car whenever I want a nice, easy to handle car. This thing generally does what you want it to do when you want it to do it. It's got a longer braking distance than some of the other cars, but not by much. This thing handles bumps very well and isn't too bad when you get on the throttle. Doesn't like to kick out too much. It's pretty fast in a straight line as well. It's overall a decent car, but in Monza, in this lap I pulled, it didn't do the greatest time. But I'll let you watch the rest of it without me talking. Now at the end of the lap, in the last corner, with this car you do have to be quite careful putting your foot down out of the parabolica. The rear likes to step out a little bit, but we perform a time of 1 minute 47.7. So already that's a second quicker than the Bentley. That's a big jump. So from here on we just get a little bit quicker. We go to the 2018 Nissan. This car feels similar to the first car we talked about, the first Nissan. But it's overall faster. It handles bumps a little bit better, and it's just a bit more nimble overall. So here's the lap. And coming into Ascari on the left, you can go right over the curbing, but when you come to the exit, you've got to be careful again. You can't go far over the curbing. This time I get lucky, but usually it'll flick you up and push you wide. So be careful with that one in this car. We head to the last corner. We should be on a pretty good lap time with this lap. Ease the throttle on, bring it out wide. Use all the track you got. Don't go too wide onto the AstroTurf though, you'll get your lap invalidated. And we finished the lap with a time of 1 minute 47.6, which is over a second quicker than the older Nissan, and very slightly quicker than the BMW. Now we move on to the Ferrari, which was talked about in the last video as well as the 2018 Nissan. Now, for those who watched, I talked about how the Ferrari was probably the better car, and I do still feel that way. This lap probably wasn't the best lap I've driven, but it was still pretty good. The car's very nimble, it turns very well, probably the best out of all the cars. I don't think it has the greatest top speed, but getting through the corners is this thing's strong point. With Monza being quite a top speed focused track, the Ferrari could probably perform better on a tighter track, so it's pretty impressive seeing this thing in third place at this track. This car doesn't quite like bumps as much as the previous cars have been able to handle them, so you got to be quite careful. This thing gets pulled around a lot if you use the curbs too much. Now coming into Ascari, this car can take the curb on the left quite a lot, as you can see there. Gets a bit unstable, but it's quite easy to catch. On exit, I get lucky again. This car doesn't quite like that bump on the exit, but it can be done as long as you hit it in the right place. Coming to the last corner, we can brake really late. This car can probably brake the latest out of most of these cars that we have so far. It's really light, and it's good at that. Put the throttle down really early, it doesn't really kick out, and down to the line we perform a time of 1 minute 47.7. Now that's slower than the Nissan, I know, but I do think with a better lap, which I probably should have redone, I would have gone a bit faster. Now we move on to the Jaguar, which is also one of my go-to cars when I want something not too difficult to drive, but something quite fast. Now this thing is fast, so I'll let you watch this lap. It handles the curbs really well. It brakes pretty late, not the latest of all the cars. It turns relatively well. It understeers a little bit if you push a bit too hard into corners, but if you slow it down enough, like all cars, you should get through the corner all right. This car on tighter tracks does struggle a bit if you put the throttle down too early, but on Monza you don't have to worry about that too much, maybe a little bit on the last corner. So it suits this track pretty well. I'll let you watch the rest of the lap. Now we enter the last corner, be gentle on the accelerator, don't want the rear to kick out. Pull it out to the left and we head to the finish line to perform a time of 1 minute 47.3, which is quite a bit faster than the previous cars. We're getting into the low 47s, which is extremely quick now. So this car is definitely right up there. Now we move on to the final car, which is the Lamborghini. This car is extremely quick, but it's also one of the hardest to drive, in my opinion. You can put the throttle down quite early, coming out of the last corner to start your lap. You want to pick up the speed, head towards the first corner. This thing can brake pretty late. It's also got good handling like the Ferrari. Get close to the sausage curbs, don't quite hit them because this thing hates them. easy on exit. You can use the AstroTurf on the outside there. This thing you got to push to the limit to go fast. You got to be right on the edge of grip. If you hit the bumps or you get too caught up on the curbs, you'll probably get unstable and you'll lose a lot of time. It's hard to get through the second chicane perfectly in this car, I found. The Lesmos, the first one I often understeer on if you accelerate a bit too early. I go a little bit wide there. Coming into the second one's also quite hard. I often push a bit early. The car doesn't like those bumps there on exit. Doesn't affect it too much there. Now we head down to Ascari for the final time. Now the curbing on the left, I'd avoid it in this car. It doesn't like it at all. And coming to the exit, this car probably handles the worst coming over this left curb. As you can see, I just go straight off the track. But on a better lap, this is probably how it should look like. Narrowly avoid that curbing on the left, come back to the right, and you can just hit the curbing, but don't go over that sausage curb or you're just going to get thrown off the track or spin out. This thing's got pretty good straight line speed as well, which helps on this track. Coming down to the final corner, you can brake quite late, trail brake it in a little bit, and you can put your foot flat about here. So that's a lap at Monza with the Lamborghini. It's really good, only if you drive it good. Over the line, and we perform a time of 1:47 flat. That's about 1.9 seconds quicker than the slowest car in this list, and 0.3 seconds quicker than the car in second, which is the Jaguar. So overall, I found on this track the Lamborghini to be quickest. It's probably one of the harder ones to drive. The Jaguar being one of the easier cars to drive, but also really quick. If I want a car that's not too hard to drive, but I know is going to perform well, I'm going to go for the Jaguar. But if I want a bit of a challenge, I'm definitely going to go for the Lamborghini. That'll put me near the front. If you're feeling a bit more relaxed and you don't really care about going too fast, then feel free to go for the 2015 Nissan. It'll be near the back, but it's not too hard to drive. The Bentley's also a bit tricky because you have to you're on the right side in that car compared to all the other cars being left-hand drive cars. So that's something you have to adapt to a little bit. But you'll get used to it quickly. Just got to be careful on the throttle in the Bentley. The BMW is generally really nice. It's probably the nicest handling car in my opinion, but in this case, it's not the quickest car. The Ferrari, the 2018 Nissan, they're both quick. About the same pace on this track. I reckon you could get the Ferrari a bit faster, but it's harder to drive. And all these times were set on the aggressive setups, so nothing was changed. Just the aggressive setup. You can go fast without changing anything, but you can possibly gain a few tenths, maybe a tiny bit more, if you adjust the setup to your liking. At the end of the day, it's up to you to be able to go fast. You've got to learn the track, learn the car, learn the braking points, acceleration points. Learn all that first before you start pushing too hard and gradually build it up. You'll get faster. If you end up spinning and going off the track, read what's making you do that. If you're hitting the curbs too much, then take it back a notch and just keep practicing. I've been uploading hot lap videos with my own setups, which are pretty quick and might handle a little bit better than aggressive, but it doesn't necessarily mean you'll go much faster than the aggressive setup. I might make another one of these videos when the full release comes out, then I can compare the rest of the cars. Maybe I'll make 2 more parts because there'll be quite a lot of cars. But until then, we've got these 7 cars to play with, so choose whichever one suits you the best and get that as fast as you can get it. For me, it'd probably be the Jaguar I enjoy the most, to be honest. I like the way it handles, the way it accelerates. I like its sound. It sounds quite nice. It's just generally a really nice handling car that doesn't suffer too much over the bumps. If you're going to be racing on a tighter track, the cars I'd probably be going for is possibly the Ferrari or the Lamborghini. They might be at the top on a tighter track, but that's entirely up to you. I used to always go for the BMW because they used to handle the nicest for me until the Jaguar came out, and then I started driving that more, and obviously these other cars. I hope this video helped you decide which car might suit you better in Assetto Corsa Competizione. And if you want more content like this and other sim racing content, make sure to like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what else you want to see. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.